paper somewhere. So good afternoon. My name is Chris Carmouche, and I am a cancer survivor. My wife is... This is my wife, Amy. The little one is number 4 is Marin. Number 3 is Megan. The 13-year-old boy is Hudson. And our daughter, Natalie, is 16. So there's a decade there. We just kind of went to sleep. So anyway, as Mark just said a few minutes ago, I want to tell you from someone whose kids have used the service, thank you. Today is truly a celebration of what you guys have done to raise what was trending towards $250,000 last night. So for us, we're in a position where we can afford therapy, but there's thousands of kids out there who this service is completely free. We didn't pay a nickel for the services my kids were able to have. So why are we here? Let me tell you a little bit about my story, and then my kids are going to share what Wonders and Worries meant for them, and then my wife is going to finish up. The little ones aren't going to share. Well, they may, but it won't be intentional. So April 12th, about 2.5 years ago, I was in a board meeting, and we had a great first quarter. The numbers were fantastic. It was right after lunch, and I'd had a salad. I knew that was bad. See, I should have had the hamburger. And I had a pain right here in my side, and I thought, it's gas. I mean, I'm a guy, right? So I just ignored it. Figured I could burp or something, it'd go away. Well, about 30 minutes went by where I ignored it, and eventually I started getting hot flashes and cold flashes. And one of the other board members, when I got to the point where I was losing consciousness, took me to my father's general practitioner. And he, of course, said, it's just a kidney stone. And I was like, great, give me a shot. We got an Astros game and a steak dinner, let's go. And so he said, just in case, go get a CT scan, and let's just take a look. Well, I hadn't been in that little tube for about 5 seconds, and that scan guy, the technician, got up and left the room. And I said, man, that must be the biggest kidney stone ever, where this is really bad. And about 3 days later, I was at MD Anderson after I had been stabilized. And what had happened was my kidney had ruptured because the tumor, I had no symptoms. I'm just a normal 43-year-old male. I dove hunt, teal hunt, duck hunt, goose hunt. I do all that. I'm just a normal guy. I had never really been sick, and just in a moment, it changed. And I was bleeding out internally. So that was horrible. I was crushed emotionally, and I was crushed physically. And because I'd gone from a point where I was running a company and so strong to, in a moment, dying. I mean, there's no other way to put it. My kids stayed in Austin with my mother-in-law, and it wasn't until Sunday they came to see us, and I was in no shape. As a father, I want to be strong, but I couldn't. All I could do was cry. I knew my kids needed help on Sunday when they came in. The medicine they were giving me was really causing me quite a bit of problems, and my son came in, and I have a scar that goes from my sternum to below my belly button because they took out my kidney, my adrenal gland, 18 lymph nodes. And he came in, and I was vomiting. I was throwing up, and the sutures were really, it was horrible. And I looked at his face, and I was like, I couldn't do anything, but I felt so bad. I was like, God, somebody out there. So I don't want to go too long, but I will tell you this. Immediately, I had Live Strong on my doorstep. A good friend of mine, Doug Ullman, was there. American Cancer Society was there immediately. I had my friends from YPO that were there immediately. My kids had nobody. There was nobody ready to step up other than Wonders and Worries. I didn't realize it was going on in the background, but a good friend of our family works with Wonders and Worries. And he had already, right after I got sick, when I first collapsed, been working with Amy. and I didn't even know it, totally in the background. But after I saw my son that Sunday, I was glad somebody was there to help him, because, my kids had never seen me. The big ones had gone out with me hunting. They didn't carry a gun, but they certainly went out with me since they were little kids. And to see their dad not be strong, I'm not sure they'd ever really seen me cry, but I was crying like a baby. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Natalie now. Natalie's 16 over at Anderson High School. And Nat, can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Hello everyone. As my dad said, I'm Natalie. I'm 16 years old and I attend Anderson High School as a junior. So, like he said, it was about 2.5 years ago that I learned that my dad was sick. When my parents were over in Houston, it was just my grandparents taking care of us. We love our grandparents, but they also live in Illinois, so we don't get to talk to them that much. Therefore, I wasn't able to connect to them. For weeks, I would stay in my room. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I wasn't eating much. Eventually, my parents signed my brother and up for the Wonders and Worries sessions. We met a wonderful person named Corinne, and she soon became a really great friend of mine. Not only was I able to talk to her about my fears about cancer, but I was also able to connect with her and confide in her about my frustrations with school and with home. For me, the teen group has been nothing short of a blessing in my life. It enabled me to express my feelings in ways that I was comfortable with. You see, I've never been very good with words and essays and stuff like my brother and my dad and my peers have. I'm more of a artsy person. So what Wonders and Worries did and what the teen group did is they encouraged me to embrace that and to use that as my way of letting out my feelings and my frustrations. In the teen group, the reasons why we're all there may vary, the situations are different, but we're all able to unify and become one great awesome group in the fun activities we do together. Wonders and Worries has become a safe haven for me. It's a place where I can relax and voice my thoughts without being concerned about being judged. The staff and the other group members at Wonders and Worries have now become part of my family. And with them, I know that whatever happens in the future, they'll be at my side to help me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hudson, and I'm currently an 8th grader at Murchison Middle School. My dad Chris was diagnosed with stage 2 kidney cancer when I was in 5th grade. At age 11, I didn't know what cancer was or what to make of the whole situation of my dad being sick. Not being able to understand what was going on was very scary for me at the time. But because of Wonders and Worries, I know not to be afraid, because here, there is always someone to help. I remember coming home from a doctor's appointment when my mom received a phone call from my dad's best friend, who was with my dad on a business trip. He was calling about a medical emergency. My dad had never really been this sick before, so I didn't really know what to think. During this time, I was very perplexed about the whole situation, because most of the time I didn't know what was happening, and I also didn't know if my dad was all right, because I was in Austin and he and my mom were at MD Anderson in Houston. Because my dad's kidney had ruptured, he had to get immediate medical help. Luckily, one of our family friends not knowing if my dad would survive, my sister and I were both very scared. But luckily, one of our family friends that is a counselor here introduced us to Wonders and Worries. My time at Wonders and Worries has helped me do one main thing in particular: forget. While my dad had cancer, forget is all I wanted to do. To forget that my dad was sick and to forget the entire thing ever happened in the first place, just so I could go back to living a normal life, just like all the other kids my age. When I first started going to Wonders and Worries, I was introduced to a wonderful person named Corinne. She has been a counselor for me and my sister and a whole bunch of other kids that go to the Wonders and Worries. Together we would have activities, groups, and we would chat together about our fears and what we don't know about what could happen. The individual sessions were great, But the individual sessions were great. What I cherished the most were the teen groups where my sister and I could interact and do fun activities with other teens that were going through the same thing as us. When I go to teen group, I feel like I'm actually around people who understand what it's like to go through this. Wonders and Worries has been a wonderful experience over the past 2 years so that I can get my life back on track, not always be scared of what could happen to my dad. Because Wonders and Worries is funded by donations, I thank you for donating and helping this organization stay alive. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amy. Pardon me for reading. If I don't, I'll forget to say something. I want to tell you how we were introduced to Wonders and Worries, but you've already heard some of that we were introduced through a family friend. So the story is that when we found out that Chris had a tumor and that it was likely to be cancerous, we started making plans to travel to MD Anderson in Houston. With having 4 children at the time, ages 8 months old, the little one was 8, and this one was 2, Hudson was 11, and Natalie was 13. That naturally also meant that we had to arrange for childcare while we were gone. One of the things that I had to take care of was letting Natalie's tennis coach know that she would have to miss her upcoming lesson. When I was on the phone with him explaining what was going on with Chris and that I was worried about the kids, he reminded me that he wasn't just a tennis coach, but that he was also a child life specialist at Wonders and Worries. His name is Allie Hushman. I already knew that Allie was doing some type of counseling with children, but I didn't know any more than that. And he said to me on the phone, "Amy, this is what I do." What a happy coincidence, I thought. He also told me that he already was planning to be in Houston for his son's tennis tournament during the same time that Chris and I would be at MD Anderson. Another great coincidence. Allie offered to meet with me in Houston and provide some strategies that would help me explain Chris's health situation to our kids. He generously took time away from being with his family to counsel me as a professional, but he also just listened to me as a friend. One of the things that Allie stressed to me as being important was giving our kids the facts as we knew them. He said, "Amy, if you try to hide something from them, they'll sense it, and that will lead to more fear. Just tell them what you know in terms that they can understand. They'll be able to handle it better than you think." What a novel idea, I thought, because my initial inclination as a mother was to try to protect my children from the truth. My thought process was, the less they know, the better, but it turns out the opposite of that is true. Allie also told me about how the counseling program at Wonders and Worries works. Natalie and Hudson could go through a 6-week program with one of the child life specialists that would teach them about cancer and help them explore their feelings and fears about their dad being sick with this serious disease. Allie wasn't able to be our family's personal child life specialist because of our existing relationship, so he introduced us to Corinne Jorgensen. It was several weeks after Chris's surgery, and we returned home from the hospital before I scheduled Natalie and Hudson's 6-week program with Corinne. I was overwhelmed with taking care of Chris and his recovery, in addition to taking care of our 4 children. I knew that getting Natalie and Hudson into counseling was important, but unfortunately it just getting put back on the back burner. If I had known then what I know now, I would have gotten them started right away. I had no idea how much Wonders and Worries would help not just Natalie and Hudson, but our whole family. Natalie and Hudson enjoyed their one-on-one time with Corinne so much that when their 6-week session was over, they were more than happy to start going to the monthly teen groups at Wonders and Worries. In the beginning, I thought that the teen groups were going to be an opportunity for Natalie and Hudson to discuss and share their experiences and feelings with other teens. But after the first couple of sessions, I realized that's not what these sessions are all about. Instead of being a discussion group, these events are an opportunity for teens to be with other teens who've been through something similar while sharing a meal and doing a fun activity which also happens to be therapeutic. The kids are never put on the spot or forced to share their feelings, but they know that if they want to, they can. When a parent has cancer, the home environment and family culture can easily become focused on the parent's illness. Teen Group gave Natalie and Hudson a chance to get away from that and all of the other daily pressures they face with school, and extracurriculars to be in a safe place and just have fun. It may be surprising to you, but for a teen dealing with a sick parent, having fun can be extremely therapeutic. When we found out that Chris's cancer had metastasized to his lung a year later, that news couldn't have come at a more stressful time, in my opinion. We had just sold our house and had 1 week before we had to move out. It's a long story, but it was a very, very difficult move. And this one was, moving's always hard, but moving was the toughest one we've ever done. So on top of all that, we were now faced with the reality of cancer once again. And I have to admit, I was scared out of my wits. I called Corinne and told her the news and asked her for advice on how to share it with Natalie and Hudson. Again, she reminded me of the importance of giving them the facts. They went back to see Corinne for some more one-on-one time with her to help process this news and what it could mean, and they continued on with attending the teen group events. I feel like we are so fortunate to already have Wonders and Worries as a resource for our family when Chris's cancer returned. As hard as it was to find out that he had cancer in the first place, knowing that it was back was so much worse. And knowing that our kids had a safe format for dealing with their feelings and fears was invaluable to me. Corinne, Allie, and the rest of the staff at Wonders and Worries helped our kids in a way that we never could have on our own. To be honest, though, I can't say that we're all okay now. The memories and the future unknowns of this disease are still hard to deal with, but Wonders and Worries has definitely become a very important part of our lives. I would just like to close by asking you all to please spread the word about Wonders and Worries. Looking back on our experience at MD Anderson, I remember receiving a packet of counseling resources from one of the social workers there. Wonders and Worries was one of the resources listed, but I was so overwhelmed with everything that comes with cancer that if